Dog Show here on YouTube. How is everybody doing today after an amazing week? Alex Potan Pereira, Shama. He gets his win over Ankalaev and wins his belt back. A great UFC 320 that we saw on Saturday night. Not only that, an insanely fun week in the NFL, even though some of those matchups did not seem as enticing as many of us may have thought. We nonetheless had a fun week. The Jaguars win a thriller on Monday night. New England upsets Buffalo on Sunday night. The Saints, Giants, that game ends up crazy as the Giants have 5 turnovers in that one. Not only that, the MLB playoffs are fully in swing. Last Tuesday, we were preparing for them to just get started. Now they are fully in swing as we have the New York Yankees facing elimination tonight against the Toronto Blue Jays. I can't wait to talk about all of what we have in store today. Like I said, a crazy NFL slate happened this weekend. College football this weekend. So from what I saw, it was very fun. We got basketball underway in the preseason. That regular season starts on, I believe, the 22nd is when the NBA regular season will start. We have preseason going on right now. And the NHL, we got hockey starting tonight. We got 3 games tonight between, I know the Rangers play the Penguins. That's at 8 o'clock. The game before it is, we have Blackhawks Panthers at 6 o'clock, Penguins Rangers at 8 o'clock, and then at 10 o'clock we have the Avalanche playing the Los Angeles Kings. So NHL hockey is also underway as we have almost hit our official sports equinox of the year as we close in on basketball season starting, as hockey season starts, as baseball comes to an end. We will have a moment where all 4 sports are in regular season or postseason play. Hopefully at some point this year, it is the best time. You're not a sports fan. You're not a sports fan because there's something on at all times now. There's something for everyone at all times now. And I do want to start the day talking about the amazing event that we had on Saturday called UFC 320. Now, I did have a pretty busy Saturday. As I said, I wasn't able to watch college football as much as I wanted that day because I did work. But when I came home, what I was able to do was turn on the main card of that UFC event. The first fight I was able to watch was Josh Emmett versus Youssef Zalal. And then, obviously, the last 3 fights of the night were something surreal. Those last 3 fights of the night were so much fun to watch. So, I mean, I'll start talking about, I'll start with the Youssef Josh Emmett fight. That one was interesting. I'm not going to lie, I trusted Josh Emmett going to that fight. As good as Youssef Zalal has been, especially on the ground. Josh Emmett, an All-American wrestler. Josh Emmett, someone who, yes, Zalal was just coming off a decision win against Calvin Kattar. But that alone, it being a decision, I never saw his fight against Calvin Kattar, but when watching the fight against Josh Emmett, at least early, because obviously that fight did not last very long with the way that he snuck that armbar in, I did get scared with the way that that takedown looked so beautiful off rip. That first takedown that Zalal gets after, he feels Josh Emmett out for probably the first 30 seconds, 45 seconds of that fight, tests everything that he needs to test, and then gets a beautiful single leg shot on Josh Emmett, where from that moment on, Josh Emmett kind of just looked done. There was no hope for Josh Emmett at that point. It seemed like where Youssef Zalal just made his ground transition so easily, got that armbar he snuck that armbar in from honestly what felt like bottom position, if I remember, but if I remember correctly, it was like They were kind of scrambling at that point when he slips it in. But Josh Emmett was trying to stand up. He slips that armbar in. You see him get his foot around, and all at that point it is if that arm is extended, you're in a really, really bad spot. And as Josh Emmett tries to get up, the arm extends. It was weird to see, too, because Josh Emmett was in that position where he was kind of bent down. You didn't see the arm extend. It was kind of seemed like a sudden tap in the moment until you saw the replay where his shoulders were bent. He was trying to keep his body as tucked as possible, but just the strength and the resilience of Youssef Zalal to get that armbar. And Josh Emmett, as a vet, kind of knew he was done the minute that arm extended and tapped right away to avoid further damage from anything that could have happened with that type of armbar. So Youssef Zalal gets a huge win there, gets a back-to-back win over a ranked opponent, which is huge, huge, huge for Zalal to get that win over another ranked opponent as he moves up in that weight class. I shift over to my computer here to not a huge move up here, but as you guys like to know, as most of you guys do like to know that you know, I like to do my little fantasy bookings here. So, like I said, as I pull up why can't I find it? Why can I not find there we go, the featherweight division. I found it. When you look at that featherweight division to see how it's moved, now, obviously, after that fight, Zalal has moved up 2 spots. Moved up to 7. He was 9 going into the fight, back-to-back ranked opponents. But Laron Murphy, I apologize. He is someone who just came over from Bellator, someone who had a lot of repertoire in Bellator, was very good. Over that was a very, 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 very good fighter. Obviously, a former champion in the bantamweight division and then moved up to featherweight. So I do think that that's a good way to look for Youssef Zalal is maybe an Aljo fight, maybe a Leron Murphy fight. One of those two dudes, I definitely think he should fight someone in the top 5, unless Dana has someone that he has outside the top 10 that he feels like is he is one of these Bellator guys or PFL guys come over that he wants to test. I think Youssef Zalal could be used as a good test with the way that he beat Qatar and UD and the way that he just dominated Josh Emmett early in that first round. I think you got a lot of room here, but I would love a top 5 fight 100% for Youssef Zalal going forward. The next fight of the night was what I consider the fight of the night. Many will give Alex fight of the night because of how shocking it was, how dominant it was, how Alex is back to old Alex. I definitely think that deserves knockout of the night. I think what Dana likes to do usually is he does like to split those up. He does like to split fight of the night, knockout of the night. So you could argue that Alex's fight is knockout of the night, definitely, where he gets that performance bonus, which he did get for that knockout on Ankalaev. But back to the fight I was talking about, which I think was fight of the night by far. You have Yuri Prochazka fighting against Khalil Rountree, both dudes who have fought Pereira, lost. Khalil Rountree had that battle against Pereira almost a year ago where he shocked many people and won a round or 2 against Pereira. And Yuri has been kind of dominated by Alex, but nonetheless has been such a dominant force in the light heavyweight division for years now. Yuri, one of my favorite fighters, the Czech samurai, as many people call him, performed very well. So did Khalil Rountree, just bombs back and forth. You saw it. Especially once that second round, once you hit the middle point of that second round, you really, 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 really saw a lot going on there out of Prochazka and out of Khalil Rountree. That's when it really started to turn into Prochazka's type of fight, where Yuri loves these exchanges. He's so good at timing exchanges and getting his punches there first, and just getting these big shots in during those ugly exchanges where there's not a whole lot of technique, more instinct almost taking over in those exchanges, especially the ones against Khalil Rountree that we saw this past weekend. And Yuri just found himself in a lot of those situations, especially in the second round. And you saw both of these dudes throwing haymakers back and forth. You'd see Yuri clock him a few times, and then Khalil would squeeze one in, and Yuri would have to back up for a second. And just this whole back and forth affair. The fight was so exciting, so fun. Yuri gets an insane knockout that I was just baffled in seeing, where you watch Khalil just fall due to exhaustion and punches and just so much that got Khalil out of there and done, just ended it. Just ended it. And just what a fight out of Yuri Prochazka. The problem is with Yuri getting this win and Alex getting the win is you could argue with Ankalaev, if Ankalaev wins that fight, that Yuri gets a title shot here. We're not going to see a title shot out of Yuri here, obviously, after losing to Alex twice. They're probably giving it to Olberg. I think Olberg probably deserved it either way, but they're giving I say you have to give the championship opportunity here to Olberg, not even do an eliminator. If there's Ankalaev, I think with Prochazka, there's no room for him to fight Pereira. We've already seen where that goes. To do the trilogy almost feels stupid, unless it's no doubt Yuri has to fight again for the belt. I don't see, as long as Alex is the light heavyweight champion, I don't see Yuri sadly getting this other shot that he wants so badly. Obviously, everybody wants so badly, but I don't see Yuri getting that other shot that he wants. I don't think he deserves it after, honestly, a great fight over Khalil Roundtree, but really dominate and make us all think that there's no other option but giving him a title shot. I think that's what you have to do here if you're Yuri Prochazka. You, like I said, you look at that light heavyweight division. Yes, again, I go back to my computer here. Yes, you have. I know you have, obviously, Olberg moves down to 2 because of that fight. Yuri moved up to, but Olberg is technically 3 with Ankalaev and Yuri tied as the number 1 contender, because obviously Ankalaev does just lose his belt. It's hard for us to say whether, you know what I mean? It's hard for you to say after he loses his belt that he's not a number 1 contender. But, maybe you give Yuri Blachowicz, who he hasn't fought in a while. You know what I mean? Or you have him fight Ankalaev still for that number 1 contender spot for the winner of Olberg versus Pereira. I think that's a better option there. Actually, I think that's the best option, is still give Yuri Ankalaev, realistically. Just have the rematch be an eliminator. I think that's realistically, when you look at that division, that's the other fight you have to give. Unless, again, which I'll talk about more as I talk about Pereira in a little bit, unless you do that Yuri Olberg situation where you have them fight for an eliminator, which is very possible. But I also think that it's very hard for me, as an outsider and a fan of the UFC. Obviously, I'm not in the war room with Dana White. I don't sit there and partake on making fights. I just do my fantasy bookings like it's WWE or anything else. But what I truly think is when you look at the situation of us already seeing Alex beat Yuri twice, it's hard for anybody wanting to see that fight again, because I feel like we all think we know the answer, even though it's possible. Every fight's a different fight, honest, and I think you give him Carlos Olberg. But I'll get more into that main event in a second, as I do want to talk about the co-main event, because we're talking about people who we don't know who they're going to fight next. Who the hell do you give Merab next after that performance against? It is Corey Sandhagen, where I feel like in that bantamweight division with Merab and Jan, and I think Merab is just at such a different level of that whole division, where I have yet to see a moment where I feel like, yes, Merab probably lost that first round, I'll be honest, but with the way Merab fights, did I have any doubt at any point, even with him losing that first round, that he would lose that fight? No. He gets a UFC record 20 takedowns against Sandhagen on Saturday. He's second. He has 34 takedown attempts, which is second all time in a UFC fight, behind his own fight against Piotr Jan, where he had 41 takedown attempts. And it's just like, obviously, I know, and everybody feels this way, or 98.8% of people who watch the UFC and watch MMA feel this way about. Everyone loves a stand and bang fight. Everyone loves what we saw with Yuri and Khalil a lot better than what you saw out of Merab and Corey Sandhagen, especially with Merab's dominance and the way it goes. But the amount of energy for Merab Dvalishvili to have 20 takedowns in a fight before, have 34 takedown attempts, have 41 takedown attempts in a previous fight against Petr Yan 2 years ago. The energy tank on Merab Dvalishvili is something we have never seen before. And it's so obvious that for someone to beat Merab, they're going to have to put him out. And who that's going to be in the bantamweight division, I have no clue. Petr Yan, I don't believe can do it. Sugar Sean, we've already seen him try twice. I don't think he can do it. Song Yadong, maybe? I don't know. Like, the only matchup I feel like you have right now for Merab is a rematch against Petr Yan, because against Magomedov, so he already beat Umar recently, and then you start going down those rankings and you get to Corey Sandhagen, he just beat. And then everyone after Corey at that point lost to Yan in his last fight. Marlon Vera lost to Figueiredo in his last fight. And then you get to Mario Batista where it gets interesting, because Mario Batista's next fight is scheduled against Umar Magomedov. Or Nurmagomedov, sorry. Against Umar Nurmagomedov. So if Mario Batista could do that and beat Umar, there we have. See what Mario Batista could possibly do. Like I was just saying, to see what Mario Batista could do against someone, he's someone who's very stylistically different than Merab Dvalishvili is. He's someone who he's not as, like I said, he's not as much as a wrestler as he is a jiu-jitsu artist, where he's kind of slipped our next event against Umar Nurmagomedov. So we obviously have to see how he performs there. But if he could get a win over Umar, I think that's a fight that you look at, and it's either Yan or Mario Batista for the next title shot. And I think a lot of people would like to see the new opponent. It's a very fun fight, or a very fun situation. Finally, sorry, I did just do something there. But finally, we get to the main event of the night, though, where we saw this dude by the name of Alex Pereira march down, absolutely march down, the only person we've seen beat him in the UFC, handedly beat him in the UFC, with that division loss, or with that decision loss to Ankalaev for his belt last time. Poatan walked into this fight different, man. He walked into this fight like the Poatan that we saw that beat Izzy. This looked like middleweight Poatan with the way that he walked in, the determination. Pereira walked into that fight. Alex Pereira walked into that fight. Sorry. But Alex Pereira walked into that fight. Trying to fix my mic here. Let me know in the chat, guys, if it got any better. I don't know if you guys are even still here. You probably tuned in for a second and said something and left. But Stefan Diggs haunts my dreams. We'll talk about that when we get to football. You're just week 5, bro. My fantasy team's chilling there. My fantasy team's chilling. But back to what I was saying about fantasy teams chilling. But back to what I was saying about UFC wanted to be dominant and go right over the top like he did with a dominant, I believe if I remember correctly, it was a right. I kept seeing things that people said it was the left. I thought it was the right when I saw it, but whatever it was, an overhand that hit Ankalaev right on the head. Ankalaev gets wobbled, reaches out like this, looking for his dad, like, looking out, just reaches his arms out in complete and utter chaos, and absolutely gets finished on the ground. It's a minute 30 seconds. He landed 4 total strikes in that entire fight. It was like it was almost sudden, but it was just the Pereira that we knew. It was the Poatan that we knew when we saw what he was able to do for so long in his first couple fights in the UFC. And he's only been in the UFC for what, 3 years? And he's beaten 7 champions, and it's just absolute dominance over and over again. And we thought maybe we saw the end of it with the way Ankalaev was, but then the reports came out that Alex had a left hand issue. Then the reports came out that Alex might have fought recovering from corona. And, a lot of people go, oh, it's just excuses, these always come out after, it's just excuses. I may have even said it a few times. But man, were those not excuses. Because what Alex did was, like I keep saying, he just marched forward, looked Ankalaev in the eyes, and said, good night, I win. He goes, there's no battle here. Shama is what he said, consistently. Shama. Absolutely just marched him down. He said it to him in the weigh-ins, in the face-off. He goes, I can't go back to the tire shop, man. You see when Alex hits this primal form of am I going to lose everything? You just see such a dominant fighter. It's such an interesting, fun thing to see. Such a dominant thing to see, and it's something that we'll never see again. I mean, he's already hitting an older age because he was in kickboxing, and then, like I said, had fallen out of professional kickboxing for a very long time. Was known as the dude who knocked out Israel Adesanya in kickboxing long ago. But he just over and over again shows complete dominance in that octagon. He's at 38, so I don't know how much longer we have of this man, but enjoy it while we have it because he's going to go down as a generational talent here. Bleacher Report has just put out an article and reported that Conor McGregor has accepted a 10-month ban, I believe that alert just said. If I saw that correctly, he has accepted a 10-month ban. Let me check my Apple Watch, actually. Oh, an 18-month ban Conor McGregor has accepted from the McGregor's anti-doping sanction expires on March 20th, 2026. So with that, that's interesting. That opens Conor McGregor up for the possibility to fight on the White House lawn on June 14th, 2026. Is that what we're going to get? Are we going to get an Irishman as the main event on the lawn of the White House fight? That's something to look at. Conor McGregor, man. Conor McGregor, it's an interesting thought here. I'll actually get into this for a second as I get that alert. So him accepting this 18-month ban is actually huge for the UFC because that lines him up to be back. So that puts him in place to fight on that White House lawn that night. He's broken countless pay-per-view records, but the fall off of Conor McGregor has also been interesting to see. So to see, are you going to put him as a main event? Obviously everyone said they wanted Jon Jones. I want Jon Jones, but Dana says he can't count on Jon Jones. And he clearly said after that, he goes, Conor's my next option. So with this ban here, the ban expires March 2026. That puts him in USADA's testing pool in March of 2026. That gives the very clear leeway of him to fight on the UFC lawn that night. So it looks like as we develop here, as we get towards those months, that definitely look for that rumored scheduling because look for those conversations to heat up because with that ban happening, I feel like that ban happening is almost a 85 to 90% confirmation of the reports that we will be getting Conor on the White House lawn on June 14th, 2026. Man, that'll be up. So, who does Conor McGregor? I'm Conor McGregor. I'm the only. I'm the undisputed. I'm the best in the league. I'm the best in the UFC. There ain't nobody who could top me. I'm calling the fucking McGregor. That one. You can't give him a title shot off rip, right? What if he fights Max? That one could be fun. If he fights Max. Because like I said, you can't give him one of the Russians. You can't give him... Obviously, you can't give him Islam. Obviously, you can't give him Islam. You know what I mean? I don't think in any way, shape, or form can you give him Islam Makhachev. I think, you know what I mean? You want to give him someone good, though. You know what I'm saying? You want to definitely bring it in. You don't want to do someone as low as like Gamrot or Dariush. Why not give an American? You know what I mean? Make Conor the bad guy. I like that thought of making Conor the bad guy. So, yeah, like, Conor's possible. Like, with this ban happening, I assume he fights at lightweight. And if he fights at lightweight, I like his fights to be... I like Max. Or Charles. Max, Charles, Justin. Those three I love. I love those three. And then you look at a welterweight, if he wants to go up in weight because he's a little older, likes to get bigger. I love maybe a Leon Edwards fight. You know, an old England versus American USA fight on the White House lawn. I like the idea of that, but maybe Leon's too fast for him. You know what I mean? Maybe he fights... I don't know, man. But, yeah, with this ban, this definitely opens up a lot of categories because I think with this ban, if that's done in March of 2026, see McGregor. We will be seeing McGregor on that White House lawn. Hopefully, unless he falls back into a hole, which is very Conor McGregor-like. Conor McGregor easily could just hop back on drugs and ruin everything that everyone's dreaming of. But with him accepting the ban, that means he's pretty much going back into the tech. Going from that, though, into... other major news. Something that is happening tonight. Why'd I go silent? Because I had to look for a second. I had to think of this. I had to think of what I was going to say. I had to think if I was going to use nice words or not here. Because here's my thought, right? As you see over my right shoulder here, you see a Jazz Chisholm jersey. A nice Yankees number 13 jersey. That is a Jazz jersey. It's not an Alex Rodriguez jersey. And if you guys have been watching my show for at least 2 weeks, that's all it needs to be. Maybe even longer. You would know that I previously had an Aaron Judge jersey on that I wore last week as the playoffs started here on this show, and that's why the Jazz jersey went up. And you might be looking at me and going, Logan, why is that jersey not back up? It's Aaron Judge. He's the best player in the American League. He's arguably your AL MVP. What happened 2 days ago on Sunday night was an absolute embarrassment. But I'm not even going to talk about that. I'm going to talk about the game before. I'm going to talk to Aaron Judge. You start the game off rough, it happens. You know, you have Luis Healing. You're at the end of your rotation. So you know what happens? You go down 2-0 early. Then in the bottom of the third inning, could you think of a better situation to be in as a baseball team? Best player, that best player. Man, does he happen to be the best player in baseball to some people? Is he the best player in the American League? Yes, he is. Is he the best hitter in baseball right now? Quite possibly. He led the MLB in batting average. He won his first career hitting title. He's arguably the AL MVP, arguably the best player in baseball, the face of the league. And you have this man batting with bases loaded, no outs. And what does he do? Factory. That's what he does. Sits down. Then you got Cody Bellinger up. Cody works a walk. I'll take it. You get the run in. Giancarlo Stanton. Hot 3. Ben Rice. Hot 3. Is this a joke? Do you know what's up for grabs here? You are reverting back to the team that we saw in August. Aaron Judge. I thought we were finally going to sit here and hopefully see it. But I guess when you see, you know what I mean? I guess a spade's a spade in this situation. Aaron Judge ain't tricking us in any way about his playoff performances because it's terrible over and over and over again. It's consistent disappointment out of a man who I see as arguably the best player in baseball. It's constant situations where this man has an opportunity to make a play for the New York Yankees in the playoffs and blow games wide open. A base clearing double or a base clearing single because maybe you're running a little slow changes that baseball game so much and you strike out. And as a team, to get one run off a walk, off the run getting walked in that game one when you have bases loaded, no outs, is absolutely abysmal. Abysmal. It reminds me, just like game one, when you have ninth inning, Aroldis Chapman, and you have Giancarlo up, bases loaded, no outs. And what happens? You strike out time and time again. In clutch situations, especially Aaron Judge does not pick up the bat and do what he needs to do. What he would do time and time again in the regular season, what he would do 31% of the time in the regular season, he cannot do. And what are you going to do about it? What's going to happen? Because now you're facing elimination tonight as the New York Yankees. You know, going back to that game one, not only does that happen right after you have that terrible, terrible, terrible situation that you let it go up, Tim Hill and Camilo Doval throw 10 straight strikeouts combined. Oh, that would have been great if Judge could have just forced in 2 runs and tied the game. But no. Aaron Judge, you're too good of a baseball player to fall flat in the playoffs over and over and over again. And so many times we see so many great players like Mike Trout and in other leagues, so many great players that we see that don't win Super Bowls, and what you say to them, or don't win championships, and what you say to them is, man, and we're going to watch this team fall apart. And I'm already looking at next season. I'm already dreaming. We already dream of the rotation of what happens when Cole comes back. And we have Cole and Fried and Schlittler and all these guys and Rodon. But what happened last night, or not last night, what happened 2 nights ago, what happened the night before, what gives me hope for tonight? And knowing this team, they're going to give me hope. Because Toronto hasn't played great in New York this year. They haven't played great. You know, you got Rodon tonight. You got Schlittler tomorrow. You might squeeze out 2 surprising ones, and then they'll get embarrassed in Toronto again, like they have been. You're seeing happen to this New York Yankees team. It's just, it's so sad. They deserve to lose tonight. The New York Yankees deserve to lose tonight. You gave up 23 runs in 2 games. It's the most in MLB history. You gave up 12 runs in 4 innings of baseball on Sunday night. It's a travesty. You deserve to lose. You don't deserve to make the championship series. You don't deserve anything more. With the way that you've played all year, you bounced back when you needed to, and I was proud of it. I was honestly proud of the team. But what I've seen in 2 games against Toronto, you've done nothing but revert back to your old selves. You had so much momentum going into the series, and you murdered all of it. You took your momentum and you slammed it face down in the dirt. It's terrible. I can't do it. I hope they win tonight. I really do. Like the fan in me always hopes they win. I hope they win. I hope they come back. I hope they go on a run to win the World Series. I'd love to see it. But It's clearly not going to happen. The team is terrible. Like, I don't want to say this team is terrible, but just underperformers consistently. Not one person on this team has performed well when they needed to. In any situation. In any situation. Whether it be the regular season and you fell flat every time. It's embarrassing. It's sad. That's all it is. It's sad and it's embarrassing for the New York Yankees. You know what else is sad and embarrassing for New York football team? 5 turnovers against the New Orleans Saints. You guys see that? I know I saw it. My Saints flag down there, you guys can't see it right now. I know I saw it. 5 turnovers for the New York Giants there. And 0. But when a team has a turnover differential of +4 or more, they win that. You win that football game 2.7% of the time. You need a miracle to win a football game where you have 5 turnovers and the other team doesn't turn the ball over once. But as I have taken my duty to do this season, since he started last week, I will watch Jackson Dart film every week. I will watch every single drop back on Jackson Dart every single week. Last week was a quick viewing. Had 20 dropbacks, 23 dropbacks. It was great. This week, now Dable did what I suggested. You could go back on the show last week. I suggested open up the playbook for Jackson Dart this week. And that's exactly what Dable did. Jackson Dart dropped back 43 times. 43 times. That's a lot of dropbacks. So Dable very much felt that he needed to open up this playbook. Now you lost Malik Neighbors. So I will argue this, as much as I did want you to open up the playbook for your rookie quarterback, first quarter was a lot of quick passes like he did against San Diego. But, that deep play to Theo Johnson, that other play, I believe, which was also to Theo Johnson that they landed, or it might have been a Bellinger it was. It was to Tyler Bellinger that lands at the 1-yard line. And then, the play across the middle to Theo Johnson. You had some plays where Dart had to go through his reads and took some deep balls. You had one to Darius Slayton early in the game that Slayton dropped. It was a little underthrown, but the reads were there. He had to make some reads. He had 16 times. On 35% of his dropbacks, he was pressured there. But, he felt very composed in that first half. I won't lie. It was until he started to maybe get hit a little bit. It was until he started to kind of until he really started to kind of very quickly. 2 quick touchdowns to Theo Johnson. He's reading the defense. But what I saw he struggled was on a screen where he misses the throw. He throws the ball short on a quick route, on a screen that he audible to. I didn't see a lot of that out of Jackson Dart, and that does scare me. As much as I saw him recognizing defenses when making his reads, I didn't see him recognizing defenses pre-snap and making any adjustments there, and that starts to go into, okay, so how much is Jackson Dart going to rely on his play calling to get him where he needs to go, and how much will he become a true leader of this team? How much just got traded to the Bengals a few hours ago? And you see a lot of this resurgence out of them. You wonder why, and it's because these quarterbacks from this generation that this previous generation that learned from Drew Brees and Tom Brady and all these cerebral guys play the game so differently. And they command the game. They don't rely on their coaches as much as I feel like we're seeing out of these younger dudes, that we're seeing out of these Darts and Cam Ward and lips out of his hand. That happens. The Scatterboo fumble, not his fault. But you throw 2 interceptions, both of them on very rookie mistakes where he's trying to make a play. You got to just get rid of the ball and play the next down and move on from it and throw the ball away because you can't afford the momentum of a turnover. But yeah, then you have the Scatterboo fumble. You have multiple fumbles. One of them returned for a touchdown. And you're not going to win a game where you have the turnover battle 5-0, and you're gonna give Spencer Rattler his first win in a game where, as a Saints fan, I'm gonna look here and say the Saints offense did not play that well. The Saints offense was very beatable in that game against the Giants defense that has struggled. But I saw the issues in the Giants defense. They've had it all year. I knew the Saints were going to have opportunities to beat them over the top, and they took advantage of that. You saw Raheem Shaheed had a huge touchdown. The Giants are too weak over the top there. So you look at that situation there, and it was a game that was winnable for the Giants. It was. As much as Dart threw those, or as much as they threw the ball 43 times, if you just minimize those mistakes and you don't have 5 turnovers, that's a very winnable game for the New York Giants. Like 110%. That's a winnable game for the New York Giants. It's a tough situation for Jackson Dart to end up in that, but nonetheless, he does. And like I said, it's the older quarterbacks. Like talking about him, Joe Flacco. Joe Flacco just got traded. Think of that. Also, breaking news to anybody who doesn't know that, Joe Flacco is the starting quarterback probably for the rest of the year of the Cincinnati Bengals. He was just traded over there for, I believe it was a 5th and a 6th. By the Bengals, given to the Browns for Joe Flacco. And, it's a lot better than Jake Browning. I love that over there in Cincinnati. Rumor has it they didn't reach out to the Giants after Dart for Russ or Winston, which I find really interesting there. I think I think you could have seen an opportunity in Russ there, especially on the 1-year deal for Cincinnati. But not reaching out to the Giants. They like Joe Flacco. They like what they saw out of him over this year and a half in Cleveland, or this year and a half in Indy, half in Cleveland. So, they make the trade for him, and to see what Cincinnati has going forward, they want to win some games clearly in Cincinnati. They don't want to just bow down on the season. They want to be competitive for when Joe Burrow comes back in Week 15. Those last 2 games, they want to try to be competitive clearly. So they go get Joe Flacco, and I like to see it, to see what maybe Joe Flacco could do with, he's been ripping it up a lot on a lot of teams that don't have a lot of weapons. Now he's going to a Bengals team that, one, he might get hit a lot, so at his age we might see him get injured very quickly. Or on the other side, he has a lot of weapons there, and Tyler Gesicki, obviously Jamar Chase, T. Higgins. So to see what Joe Flacco could possibly do in that offense, you got another big Joe over there going rock. Going to throw the rock. So I can't wait to see how that goes, honestly. That one's going to be a fun one. Other NFL news, last night we had that big game against Jacksonville playing the Kansas City Chiefs. That one was fun to watch. What a game for Jacksonville. And, the Chiefs, man, the Chiefs just don't feel like the Chiefs. I feel like over and over again when I'm watching the Chiefs this year, you're consistently seeing these plays that, oddly enough, that they used to get that are happening for the other team. You're seeing these big penalties be called, these silly plays almost, that used to happen for the Chiefs, and just the coin has started to flip the other way against the Kansas City Chiefs as they fall to 2-3 on the year. A team that last year didn't get their second loss until their third loss until the Super Bowl against Philadelphia. They're sitting there at 2-3 now. You have Mahomes come out afterwards and say he feels like they have already lost too many games. And for a team that has won as much as they have over the past year or so, I feel like they have lost too many games for their standard. And like I said, you're seeing these plays over and over again. You have the pass interference last night at the goal line. And then immediately after, you see Trevor Lawrence slip not once, but twice on his drop back. He trips over the right guard, gets up, then slips genuinely on the turf, gets up and runs a touchdown. My immediate thought there goes, damn, that's something you usually see the Chiefs get. You usually see Mahomes do that play, and then an announcer go crazy like Mahomes meant to trip and fall. Even though Mahomes just looked stupid, like Trevor Lawrence looked stupid for 2 seconds, and he got up and made a play. You usually see, the Chiefs make that play, and you're not seeing it out of Kansas City this year. And they're in a very competitive division with The Chargers, who sadly have just lost Omari and Hampton for a few weeks, so we'll see how that affects them. The Raiders have been on a lot bigger of a slump than a lot of people have expected over there. And Denver coming off a big win against Philadelphia, giving Philadelphia their first loss. You're in a competitive division if you're the Chiefs. So if you honestly ask the question to me, are the Chiefs still the Chiefs? I think no. I don't know. They have Rashee Rice back. They have Xavier Worthy back. They're still waiting for Rashee Rice, who comes back week 6, so this week. But who knows? Who knows? Because this Chiefs team, it's just every time watching them over and over again, it just doesn't feel like the same anymore. It just doesn't feel like the Chiefs are the Chiefs this year. The magic seems to have faded. It really does. It seems that magic has faded. So we'll see how it goes. You know, maybe we go back into that playoff run and we see the Chiefs become the Chiefs again, as they always do. We saw this in the Patriots. There were multiple times where many people tried to call the Patriots dynasty over and dead, tried to call Tom Brady over and dead. And time again, once he squeezed into the playoffs, he proved that he was Tom Brady. So very much can we see the Chiefs do that? Yeah, but who knows? It does not feel like this Chiefs team is still the Chiefs team. What else is going on around the league, around the world, in the sports world? Jets fall to 0-5 in that blowout. I mean, man, the Jets are in a bad spot right now. Aaron Glenn had us all talking up a huge game. Former Jet looked good out there, but he has the Jets looking like worse than they looked, honestly, even with Robert Saleh. They don't look like they could win a game. They just look like they're playing poor, sloppy football. I believe they're the most penalized team, if not one of the most penalized teams in football. Constant penalties, constant stupid mistakes, fumbles, not even like interceptions, turnovers. They're fumbling. It's just stupid mistakes, fair catches at the 1-yard line. They just seem so mentally inept. Like I used to say this about the Yankees when they were making all the errors this year. The Jets, under Aaron Glenn this year, just seem so mentally inept. They're making so many silly mistakes that set their team up in such bad field position and such bad spots that it's just their schedule helps them. But I don't know if the Jets are going to win a game this year, man. I really don't know. Bills fought in New England in that Sunday night game. That was interesting. And then shout out Cam Ward. My rookie of the week, actually, is Cam Ward with how he played against Arizona. That comeback win. He played exceptional, had a few great throws early in the game. Dan Orlovsky brought him up, and he couldn't post the video. He had to post the film notes, which was funny. So I went and checked out those throws. Had a few beautiful throws early in the game that were just dropped. And then you obviously have that fumble at the goal line by the Cardinals running back, and it just falls apart from there. The Titans get that huge comeback win, so shout out Cam Ward and the Tennessee Titans for them getting their first NFL win this season. But that is all I have for you guys today. As we have coming up this week, we do have, as I said at the top of the show, my version of the Sports Equinox, because we do have all 4 sports in somewhat of action, preseason or regular season action tonight with, or not tonight, but this week with the NFL Week 6 coming up. We have hockey, baseball, and basketball all tonight. We have the NHL face-off, like I said, with the Blackhawks visiting the Panthers at 6 o'clock. You got the Penguins visiting the Rangers at 8, and then the Avalanche going to L.A. at 10 o'clock to play the Kings. In the baseball world, at 4 o'clock in just about an hour, we will be seeing the Detroit Tigers play the Cleveland Guardians in their Game 3 that I believe the Tigers are up 2-0 now. Or sorry, the Mariners. I kept saying Cleveland. It's the Mariners. I have Cleveland written down for some reason. It's Detroit versus Seattle. That is my fault there. You got Detroit versus Seattle to end the night. That one will be fun. Or to start at 4 o'clock. They're at 1-1. So to see who takes the lead in that series will be fun. And then we have the Yankees facing elimination tonight at 8 o'clock at home against the Blue Jays. Basketball, since you have a lot of preseason, no Knicks, so I don't care. They got their 2 games in Abu Dhabi out of the way. But that is all I got for you guys today. Thank you guys so much for tuning into the Log Show here on YouTube. Anybody who tuned in live, anybody who was tuned in on YouTube as a viewer after, thank you so much. Everyone, please subscribe down below. Click that big red subscribe button. Every single click helps. Go check out the TikTok at the Log Show. Every view over there counts as well as the Instagram at the Log Show _. Every follower, every view counts. I thank you guys so much for tuning in every week. I will see you guys next week at the same time. Peace out.